Let's do the dance.
Board games, board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, board games, I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and over there, who is being sung to? It is the person known as Hwa Young. And do you know this lovely person who maybe doesn't work for immersion but is very, very smart and has made many, many a piece of art. While Young is wearing a lovely top, which is pink roses and what's not. Hwa Young is based in Korea. We met at a show. I remember this show was called Now Play This. I'm not going to say that that show was bliss, but that show was very enjoyable and it went rather well. Hwa Young then showed me a game to me and some other people, and the game's name was Probationary. The game was about the lived experience of people in this experience. Anyway, board games and so, what were we talking about again? Oh, yes, that's right. Board games and playing for change is what we're talking about. Board games and playing for change. I'm not gonna shout hello and good morning, everyone, or good evening, or good whatever time it is where you are. Hello, Xate. It is lovely to have you as always. And because I don't want to decide for you when it is, we can just call it bath time. Bath time is just a thing in your hearts. But I am Bez. We are blethering about board games. And today I have with me the wonderful, the intelligent, the conversational, the analytical. I have no reason to believe that Hwa Young was raised by bears. But if Hwa Young had been raised by bears, then those bears did an incredibly good job. So, yeah, but I don't know. I'm just going to assume that you had human parents, but,
No, I was raised by Care Bears.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And,
power shoots out from my belly.
oh my gosh, brilliant. But yes, coming up today, we are going to be talking about playing for change. And hello, Dutch Yoda. It is lovely to see you. Hello, Alan in chat. And apparently, this is the most compliments I've ever given a guest. And I'm sorry to hear about your computer state. So hope it goes okay. But
yes, this is how people do hearts in Korea. It's a small heart.
Because it's like few and then I feel like I actually like the wrists together. I've started liking this heart because for me this is a little bit easier to do than this heart. I feel like the fingers don't quite align perfectly.
You need to do it below where your clothes are, so it turns red. Yes, like that.
But I feel like if you do it this way, then you get like almost a perfect shape. If you start off with your wrists together for the hearts.
Yeah, but that also looks like you're about to be handcuffed.
I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Like this is more subtle. This is what Koreans do.
Yeah.
Also, they're lazy, so just one hand.
Wow, way to besmirch an entire nation. I mean, I understand that.
Some of my best friends are Koreans.
Oh yeah, you can't be racist because some of your best friends are Korean. Anyway, so let's actually Is there, before we get to the regular scheduled bits, is there anything about yourself that you would like to share very quickly? Hwa Young, artist, board game designer, made Probationary. We met at Now Play This. And we are going to talk about Playing for Change. Is there anything else that we need to get out of the way as an intro?
No, I don't think so. Other than it's 7 p.m. for me.
Okay, yes. That was going to be my first questionably quick question. So, ahead of the game, I should probably add a new...
That's because I'm in the future. I already knew what you were going to ask me.
Wow. Okay. Let's go to recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So, have you been playing any games since I last heard from you a couple of weeks, a month ago? So, yeah, have you been playing games? And people in the comments, what have you been up to? What have you been enjoying? And as for me, I played a game called Nano Muckle. I played it 4 times with Tally, Rob Harper, Anna, and Alex. And yeah, I think that Rob and Alex won. One of them won every single game. And so it was fun. It was fun playing a game. And what were my other recent highlights? Oh, yes, I went shopping last night. I left the house fairly late, at 20 minutes to 10. The shop closes at 10. I cycled there. I went all the way there. Boom. I was there 8 minutes to 10. Okay, I've still got time. I ran up and down. And, you know, I did have to speed up a little bit, not take as much time. And then bought a whole lot of frozen chicken pieces so that I don't have to... You know, the thing is that recently I just don't have the energy to cook, is the truth. But yeah, so when I'm having Chris and McCall over, then, or when I'm cooking for myself, it can be, okay, I'm going to put some of that frozen chicken into the oven. And that is what happened. So that was that.
That was your shopping game. I think you won the shopping game.
If it's a game.
Shopping is a game.
Is it like, is there really a simple scoring method? I mean, let's not get into the whole what is a game, because I think that for it to be a real game, there has to be some measure of success at the end. Like, for me, parts of what distinguishes, I mean, ironically, I would almost go so far as to, you know what, my things are, I guess, you know what, I'm starting to be a bit more open-minded about this, because I used to be like, okay, a game has to be what Richard Garfield calls an ortho game, like a measure of success, and then you make strategic decisions. But more and more, I'm starting to think, you know what, maybe storytelling games like Rory Story Cubes or RPGs in general, maybe those are games too. And maybe like a LARP, maybe that is a game. And so maybe you've got like games in which it's all about the story and expression and like what you express and building something together. And then you've also got games in which there's a measure of success. I wonder if there's like a third style of games that I've not considered yet. I mean, maybe you could almost say like this shopping game where you say, okay, it's a game retroactively, where I still believe strongly that for it to be a real game, you can't have it tied to your real world situation. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Sorry, I was just laughing at We'll Cook for Board Game, how they lost the shopping game.
Got to the supermarkets on the new bike, but the insurance says Xate has to lock the bike to something, and the supermarket didn't have bike racks. Oh my gosh, that is terrible. I am disappointed in the Leipzig, because Xate lives in Leipzig, for those who don't know. I'm disappointed in the Leipzig supermarkets. Like, wasn't there maybe a lamppost? I mean, sure, is it illegal to lock the bikes to lampposts in Leipzig? You can't lock it to a security guard, but what I sometimes do is when I go to actually when I go to Lidl or Iceland late at night, which you might be aware of, it's a couple of times that I've said 9:30, okay, I'm going shopping. I tie it to the place where they go, where they have all the baskets. All the lampposts were in bushes. Oh my gosh, this is really not great. What, like, and yeah, oh my gosh, this sounds really incredibly problematic. I'm so sorry for you. This I am disappointed in Leipzig. That's all I can say about that. Do you have anything to say about this? Hwa Young, do you ride a
Maybe
bike?
they need to change it. We'll shop for board games. No,
Mm.
because they're not good at shopping, so you can't. Then they'll never play
Hey,
board
don't
games.
rub it in. States is very good at cooking, and let's focus on the positive.
What's the positive? Sorry,
That
I'm
States is
failing
good
to
at
see the
cooking.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I'll have to take your word for that.
I mean, I am just assuming. I've just heard good things about it, so I've not actually tasted States cooking yet. Alan says, "Is there someone else with a bike?" I mean, yeah, all of these solutions, it feels like there needs to be some scouting of the area, but maybe like you need to go around a couple of blocks and explore. This seems really problematic. I mean, yeah, is there? To be fair, Xate only went to get ice cream to put on those mini pecan pies that Xate has been mentioning every day just to torture me. Now Xate has to eat those without ice cream. So sad. Mini pecan pies with no ice cream. What could be worse? There is literally nothing worse in the world than, oh my god, it's like you must feel so tortured.
I have to
And
say, I don't know who this person is, but I congratulate them on their hardness for having ice cream in the middle of winter.
what? Are you saying that you do not have ice cream in the cold?
No.
Okay. So also, Xate says that they do like the lazy Korean heart.
Well, you can be a bit more active by doing two, then that's not so lazy. It's still partly lazy though, I'd say.
On November 9th, 1989, wow, this is 31 years ago, Yoda was cycling in Berlin, placed it next to a wall when I visited the bar. When I got back, the wall was gone. Oh. And yeah, for those who are wondering, Xate can introduce themselves. Xate, she American living in Germany, ex-community developer for Quality Beast. And yep. Now what are your recent highlights or achievements? What have you enjoyed recently, Hwa Young?
Oh, I am doing my year-end review, which it's a sort of an annual event, and I'm really struggling to come up with anything positive this year because it's been pretty expletive. Expletive. Can I curse on this show or not? What's the rules for that?
Oh, sorry. If people say something once or twice, I let it slide, but I prefer people not to say swear words, if that's okay. But I do sometimes do what the on board games people do, and I use the word bacon, or sometimes I bleep myself and I say, I am bleeping happy to be here.
Okay.
And it
Well,
means so
okay.
bleeping much.
Well, I'll just follow family guidelines then. No, it's been a pretty horrible year. Not just for me. I know, like, this is something I still haven't really understood. But I have to constantly remind people that we're in the middle of a pandemic, which I feel acutely. I'm sure other people do, but so it's been
But is there any what was the last game you played? Was it your own game? Just one of the spoons?
No, yeah, I played my own game. Yeah, I only play my games. I don't play anybody else's game. No, I played no, this is actually quite nice. About a month ago, I played Probationary in a museum in Seoul. It was the first time I played. It's the first time I held an event in Korea as an artist, and it was so nice to be in a room with people and a board game. With like there were 8 people around a table, and I didn't know any of them initially. That was so nice.
And that does sound really good, and it's good that, from what I understand, Korea is a lot more on top of things. But yeah.
I have to make you lose your train of thought.
No, this is something that Xate does. You don't have to engage in this sorts of shenanigans. Let's move on, because clearly we need to talk about brilliant thing, what's the little thing which is brilliant. And we were going to talk about spoons.
Oh yeah. I have one here. But no, actually it's more the I made a board game at the beginning of the year, and it kind of deals with coronavirus. Although I tried really hard not to make anything about the pandemic, because it's a bit. It is energy spoons. So if you're familiar with spoon theory, which is sort of like a metaphor for living with lupus or any other form of illness that causes chronic fatigue. It's sort of like the idea that you only have a certain amount of spoons that you have to use during the day, and you need to think through how you're going to use them, otherwise you'll burn out. So so I made a game about that, and it's the day in the life of me as an artist, and dealing with lots of things that I have to deal on a daily basis, and you have to make sure you have enough spoons at the end of the day so you can eat ice cream. That's the goal. It's to get through the end of the day with at least 1 spoon so you can have ice cream.
And literal spoons are brilliant, and energy spoons are also great. I mean, both of them. I mean, I think that obviously having those spoons, like thinking about what gives you energy, but it's weird because there can be a lots of things that you really enjoy doing, but they actually use spoons. And it's like,
so it's, yes, exactly. But it's not an energy spoon. The spoon is a unit of energy. So you were born with, no, I don't say you wanted, but so you have, like, let's say you have 10 spoons that you can use throughout the day, and that's all the spoons you have. Every day you get 10.
And then you only wash them, like at the end of the day.
They're magic spoons. They don't need washing.
But when you use them, they kind of disappear.
Yes, they do. Yes, they're magic in that way as well.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on with these spoons that are crumbling in my hands? I just kind of use this spoon to be able to do a bit of writing, because these spoons are very multifunctional, and then you use the spoons to do some writing, and then you know what? I never really investigated this, and why is it spoons anyway? It's a bit of a weird.
It's because the woman who wrote that theory, who came up with the theory of spoons, and her name is Christine Miserandino, She was in a diner with her friend, and she was trying to explain to her friend what it's like to live with lupus. And there were a lot of spoons on the table because they were in a diner. So it was handy prop.
Mm.
That's where the spoons come from.
And it's just become like a big thing where now everyone's like, okay, I don't have enough spoons for this. And yeah, it's almost like a signal. It signals to the other person, hey, I've got limited energy in general. And but yeah, anyway, so the point is like these spoons, each time you are doing something, you use up a spoon, but then sometimes you might magically get a spoon back, like maybe after you've slept, if you have a good shower, if like there's something that manages to recharge you. And sometimes, if I have a bit of and I guess the whole thing is about managing your energy.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So, like in my game, you can gain spoons if you do things that would boost your energy. I mean, but boost my energy because that game is specifically about me. Like if I daydream, I get a spoon.
You get 2 spoons for daydreaming.
Yes, I get 2 spoons for daydreaming. And I think there's some activities that are neutral. Like I don't gain or lose a spoon.
Jitsi meeting runs fine. You get a spoon.
That's a spoon. Yeah.
Just for having the meeting run okay, you actually get a spoon.
These are the times we're living in.
I mean, I am honestly impressed by, if this is a true reflection of you, I'm impressed by how much potential there is for you to actually get spoons.
Well, I mean, I don't have a chronic illness, so and I'm not dealing with. I'm pretty able-bodied, so like for me, it's there aren't that many spoons to take away, but it's still it's a good reminder for me to know that not everyone has the same amount of energy, and also like I hate this nonsense about burning bright, like burning both ends of the candle, then then you only get half alive. Yeah.
And in the comments, Xate has said that for me it might be okay to get out of bed and get showered and get ready for this show. It might be like, okay, it's 1 spoon. But then for Xate, it might be, okay, a spoon to get out of bed and another to get dressed. I mean, honestly, like once I've got to, like me getting out of bed definitely is, but like once I'm like out of bed and it's like getting dressed is just like a few minutes, although I do have a mental barrier of brushing my teeth. I'm not going to get into that, but I for sure it's.
Sorry.
I have been very good about it for the past month, let's say. I have been very good at brushing my teeth, 2-3 times a day, and I've not brushed my teeth this morning yet, but planning to do that after this show. Maybe we can even make an intermission of it if people would like to watch me brushing my teeth live on camera. I'm sure that would be
brushing teeth.
So, and yeah, if you're not very able-bodied, then you're using your spoons up a lot faster. But I think what we're saying is that the brilliant thing is not just it's not just I love how
Bye, Bess. Go brush your teeth.
You know what? We could do that when we get to the questionably quick questions. Let's do that. So brilliant things, having the energy, having the spoons, being able to think about spoon management, but also literal spoons. literal spoons are also really good, because without spoons, I mean, soup would just be, you'd have to drink it out of the bowl. I mean, or a
That's all
cup.
right.
Yeah, and I do have some really nice bowls. I've got some bowls, okay? I used to have 3, but now I've only got 2. But my bowls are kind of like a pyramid square, if you know what I mean. So they've got 4 corners. And the nice thing about this is that if I'm having noodles, then the sauce I can just, like the water, I can just like tip out because it's got this kind of point to it. Do you get what I mean?
Yes. Do you know, I
Mm.
just usurped you. You're on my show now.
Oh, fine. Yes. Well, that is the brilliant thing.
That's the
I,
brilliant thing about spoons. But also, I mean, it's been adopted by other people with disabilities that aren't visible, other than people with chronic fatigue syndrome or um, like mental health. So with depression, you know, because that means you're working with limited number of spoons already, and that's another thing that I liked, that this theory, you know, it's really simple, but it's been able to go beyond the original idea because it was such a sharp metaphor.
yeah, 100%. And yeah, some people don't have as many. Some people, I mean, if you've not got a good body, then you kind of, it takes more spoons. If you're depressed, then you have fewer spoons. But maybe we should get into the questionably quick questions. And if anyone has questions for Hwa Young for the next 10, 13 minutes, then feel free to put in any of the questions. And Hwa Young, I am going to brush my teeth. And would you
Okay.
do me a favor of reading out the questions that I put on screen so I can still do that bit? So
Okay.
anything that I pop on screen, please read it out.
Okay. I'm ready.
But I start off with the question, where exactly in the world are you? And what time is it?
I'm in Seoul, Korea. It's 19:27 p.m. Well, 19. Yes, it's evening.
Do you normally use the 24-hour clock rather than saying 7:27, saying
No,
19:27?
that's a habit I adopted after living in England.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think most people in England did that.
Well, all the clocks are done that way.
Okay.
If you could be one other person for a day, who would you be and why? How long do I have to answer? Okay, Faye Dunaway in Network, because I recently produced a TV chat show, and I always pretend I'm someone in movies when I'm doing a job. Oh man. Okay. Would you rather be a shark or a pigeon? Okay, death is no option, shark. But I'd be one of the friendly ones. A nursing shark, probably. Or a whale shark. Yes. Where in England did you live? Liverpool. I'm based in Liverpool. I don't really. I'm not really based in Korea. I usually live in England, so it's Liverpool. But in the past, I have been known to live in Manchester and London. Morning. Is that a question? If it is, it's not. It's not morning. Do an impression of how you think you'll be when you are very old. is that? This is my grandma's coat. What's the best bad joke you know? Oh, I recently read the top 10 cracker jokes. And the top one is about Dominic Cummings, which I didn't find that funny. Topical, yes, but not very funny. And I think, oh, why can the reindeers fly this year? Because they have herd immunity. This guest is fun. Can we have her back? Yes, because this is my show now. Why Liverpool? Because I prefer it to Manchester. I also like being close to the sea. Don't hate me, Manx. Is that enough? Okay. I feel like this is more a comment than a question. Would you rather only have 5 games to play for the rest of your life, or only be able to play all the games one time? 5. 5 is enough. And actually, I could probably manage with 2. One of them is chess, and the other is Scrabble. If I had those 2, then I'm fine. I don't need anything else. That feels like a trick question. So I'm not going to answer that one. Okay. Again, that's really more of a comment than a question.
I think Alex just wanted to share their own favourite bad joke that they accidentally
right.
made
Okay,
coffee
sorry.
with Red Bull. It took me ages to realise I was halfway to work before I noticed I'd forgotten my car.
What is the most popular board game in Korea? See, I'm very bad at answering questions about Korea because I don't actually live here, and I haven't lived here for 15 years. And the only reason I'm here is because of COVID. Is I left in March when it was getting really, really bad in England, and I haven't been able to return. And I know there's the vaccine, and we're all very excited, but I still think it's not safe for me to return. So that's why I'm here, which is a really long roundabout way to say I don't know.
Now, you are allowed to refuse to answer things. What's your credit card number and security code? Asks Kate.
I don't know my.
Well, we can
I'm not
wait.
answering that. I'm not answering that.
What do you miss most from Korea when you are in England, and what do you miss most from England when you're in Korea?
Okay, this is easy. It's both food related. When I'm in England, I miss kimchi. And now that I'm here, I really, really miss roast potatoes.
Oh, you know, I think a month and a half ago, Sainsbury's started stocking canned kimchi.
That's what? Sacrilege. They shouldn't be canned.
Okay, so for you, canned or frozen kimchi, it's just not kimchi.
No. Frozen,
Okay.
you don't freeze it either.
Because I had it from the some other Asian supermarket where it was frozen.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Well, don't go there.
Okay. So how should kimchi be?
Ovens are not a thing here, so I can't even make my own roast potatoes.
Wait,
My
you
parents
don't have
don't
oven?
have an oven.
You don't.
No, there's no oven. My parents don't have an oven. Most houses don't have ovens.
How? So it's just a stove, just a hob.
Yeah.
So you've got pots and I guess microwaves. What heating things do you have?
Uh, uh, yeah, a hob.
Um,
There's no oven.
Xate, I know that you'd be scared and you'd be petrified without an oven to cook by your side. But I know you'd be alright. You'd find a way to fight. You'd survive. You would survive. Do you have cast iron pans?
Yes.
You could put one on the hob and the other on top of the potatoes. So kind
for
of.
roasting. Okay.
Hmm.
Maybe. My brother has an oven, but it's a newfangled thing, and he hasn't really worked out how to use it. Also, it spins. It's because like there's not an oven culture here, so I think he's used it once.
And Alex says, would I buy canned roast potatoes? No, but that's different because roast potatoes are meant to be crispy. Roast potatoes are meant to be crispy. Whereas I would eat, canned soup. I would eat canned fish. Basically, for me, anything that's not meant to be crispy, it's okay to can it. That's the way I personally feel. You seem like you're having some internal fury going on. I just
you
want
know
to
what?
hear more about kimchi and why it should not be canned.
Because you don't do that. Because canning is a process to store food to preserve for a long time, and kimchi is a living thing. So it's gonna explode the tin at some point. So you can't tin it. It's fermenting. It keeps changing. The taste will change throughout the lifespan of the kimchi.
Well, maybe one day I will come to Korea and I'll have proper kimchi, and then maybe my life will be forever changed. Who
Well,
knows?
you could get you could go to New Malden. They probably have stuff that passes
New
muster.
Malden?
Yeah, that's where all the Koreans are.
Where's that? New Malden?
Yeah, it's South London in South West.
Okay. You'll have to type that up after the show because Alex asks, have you watched The Genius? And I'm going to pose the questions in a minute.
No. What is that? Okay. Is that a game show?
Yeah, I think I've heard about this. I've not watched it either, but it's where people have to do different things and then they have to kind of do out of the box thinking to do stuff. I've heard about it. It sounds quite exciting. What's the most popular board game in Liverpool? Asks Alan.
Scouse Island.
Yoda says you should only have canned food in can, which I completely disagree with, but Alex started learning Korean after watching The Genius. It was such a good show. That's impressive, but Alex is not good at learning languages.
I will I'll check out The Genius.
Would you agree with Yoda's premise that Pringles are essentially roast potatoes in a can?
No, because Pringles are not roast potatoes. They're reconstituted potato-like substances. It's not real food.
Hello, Nicholas. It's lovely to see you. And Xate says the best meal Xate's ever had was in London. Korean barbecue burrito.
Oh, they are so good. Korean-Mexican mashup is fusion at its best, I have to say.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the questionably quick questions. And thank you, Hwa Young. Thank you, everyone, for all those questions. And yes, now my teeth are feeling fresh. And I'm feeling good. I'm going
Well done, Bez.
because I've got my emergency toothbrush. I've basically got 3 toothbrushes around the house just to make it more likely that I will brush my teeth, if you know what I mean. I've got one in the upstairs bathroom, one in the downstairs loo, and one on my desk, so that if I'm sitting here, like, oh wait, I really should brush my teeth, and then I brush my teeth. Got the energy. But yeah, did it for the first time today.
Yes,
Yay for
oral
me.
hygiene check.
Boom! Boom! Knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, you're already winning. You're so on the course to winning today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And okay, I will allow you this one last question for Hwa Young. Alex asks, would you rather have a roast potato-sized duck or a duck-sized roast potato?
Ooh. I'm gonna have to go for the duck-sized roast potato. Is that like one actual whole potato that just?
I think it's like a giant.
Or the amount of roast potatoes is in.
No, I think
it's the equivalent of a duck.
So it's one single roast potato from like a giant world record potato, and like this, because normally roast potatoes, it's not like the entire potato, but
no,
maybe
because you cut them up.
Yeah. So like maybe this is like the original potato is like this size, and then you cut it up, and then it's the size of a duck, and then you roast it, and it's like you're basically roasting this one potato in the oven for several hours.
No, you know what? I changed my mind. I'd rather have the roast potato-sized duck, because the best thing about roast potatoes are the edges. And if it's just one giant thing, that means you get all the starchy bit in the middle that's just not crispy.
Yep. And
actually, I'd just like to have the roast potatoes with the roast duck, especially if it's done in the duck fat. Oh my god, that's so good.
Oh yes, you know, the first time that I had roast potatoes, I think it was in Svats with, but yep, that is that. So let me ask you, because this is the first time you've been on, and what is a typical day for you like Hwa Young in the past, let's say, few weeks? Obviously, life right now is a bit different to how it would be last year, but how has a typical day been for you?
Well, I usually wake up around. So my atypical day, it's now pretty typical because I've been here for 9 months now, without meaning to. So I usually get up around 8 now because it's winter, but in the summer I'd get up probably around 5:30 or 6. And then I would go for a hike in the mountains, where, like, behind my parents' house, there's a mountain that I'd go for a hike for about an hour and a half. Then I come back, have breakfast with my parents, and then I take a nap. And then I'd go to the coffee shop where I work, doing laptop stuff, or a mix of writing. And then I have lunch there, or I don't, because I usually have a hearty breakfast, and then come back, I have a nap, and then have a quick meal with my parents, and then I start my second shift because I'm ahead 9 hours or 8 during summertime. I'd have to do meetings from my evening, and that's why I take so many naps, is because my day ends around 11 or 12 or 1 p.m.
And
It's pretty boring.
it says they need their older spoons just to listen to that morning routine.
I take lots of
5:30 and a
naps.
hike. That is very impressive.
Yeah, I get all my morning done, all my exercise done in the morning, and then the rest of the day I'm pretty sedentary. So if I don't do that, then I will just turn into a roast potato.
Yeah, I had a period, especially when was it? This is day 222. So I guess 223 because I had that one day when I did 10 a.m. UK Games Expo. But yeah, about 7 months ago, when I started this, I was actually getting out and then doing a quick walk or even a jog. And now I'm finding it such a struggle to even get outside, especially with it getting cold here. But I think lots of it, for me, if I actually manage to get out, I feel good. It's kind of overcoming that mental barrier. And for me, at least, it's that getting to bed early enough because my natural state is not wanting to change my states, if you know what I mean. I mean, there are certain states that I will always want to change into. Like if I'm, going to be playing games, then yes, I will happily, go into that thing. But if I'm indoors, then going outside, it's just, that's a big barrier to overcome. Just to changing states definitely takes mental energy, I feel. But then each day it is like routine. And yesterday, I am going to say I was quite proud of myself. I did do the cycle that I managed, that I talked about, and I cycled about, I don't know how far it is to the shops, but maybe about 24 miles in total yesterday. So that was like a good solid day. And
Yeah, that's a
like
lot.
the 20-mile, that's not a cycle that I've done for quite a few months. And I was, yeah, really feeling it. But let's get to our main topic of playing for change with Hwa Young. And during this thing, feel free to comment, ask questions, but let's make it a little bit more on topic before we get into it. If you want to check out Hwa Young's link, I should actually. The link is already on the YouTube and Facebook description, but if you're watching on Twitch or live on one of the other things and it's hard to find, then this is where Hwa Young's website is. I'll pop that up at the end as well. But and I want to do a quick shout out to my own Discord if you're not already there. So let's get into it. Playing, what are we talking about? And I guess the whole notion of this is kind of making games that are trying to change other people, trying to change people's views and trying to change how people are behaving. And even with Probationary, when you were talking about giving it to the people who are making decisions, the politicians, and trying to play it with them, is that what else are we talking about if we want to have a quick definition?
So I suppose that's the title "Playing for Change" came from one of the criminologists I was working for when they wrote up a paper about the project. And they went quite academic around serious games, which is a whole subgenre of games. And I think she needed to make sense of what we just did in terms of the collaborative project of making Probationary, which happened with men on probation, criminologists, their probation officers, and the people helping me facilitate the workshop who were from the arts organization. So once it was made, once it turned into a board game that express the lived experience of being on probation, because it was neatly packaged as a board game. For the criminologists, it was kind of difficult to get their heads around the fact of what it actually is. Is it an art thing? Is it a game? Is it a learning tool? And they finally settled on like a serious game, or a game built for a specific social agenda. So I'm not fussed about what people call it, as long as it can still achieve the primary goal of any art piece, artwork, is the creating a space for dialogue and the opportunity for that experience. And if it can happen to real world situations, and it impacts decisions that can be made towards everyday life, then that's what I'm interested in as an artist. So that's why it's called Games for Change.
I really like that phrase that you've used, creating a space for dialogue, because I know that if you look at the work of Scott McCloud, where it's all about what is art, art is anything that's unnecessary for mere survival, which is a very expansive form, but I like it. But then also when we delve into it, what is a key thing about it? Well, it's some form of communication, and it's some form of potentially, quite often it might be trying to communicate a statement. Sometimes it might be trying to communicate a thought that gets planted in the other person's mind. But sometimes you're not trying to hammer someone's head over it with an anvil. You're just trying to be like, hey, this is something that you can ponder. And yeah, I like this. I do want to take a quick 2-minute tangent to talk about pronouns, if this is okay. And I should use one of my Christmas episodes, or maybe I'll just go into it a bit more on Friday. Maybe I can just explain it quickly in 30 seconds right now. So I'm not conjugating the pronouns, if you know what I mean. So if you're only comfortable being called she, then that is totally fine. And I will change your name right now to Hwa Young She, which I've just done. But because the reason why it used to show the conjugations of these pronouns was, if I'm using the correct word conjugation for that, is because when we had neopronouns like these and we were, not as in we were brilliant people, but like Tenno is a lovely person, we is beautiful, and I like were hair clips, if Tenno uses we were pronouns, which can be a little bit confusing. But now people struggled to work out how to conjugate those neopronouns that had been invented. And so with the old-fashioned pronouns, and single person they is an old-fashioned pronoun, of course, and it's been used for many centuries. So then what I've tried to do is to say, hey, these are all the pronouns that we are comfortable using. So the question becomes, which pronouns are you comfortable with? And is there an order in which you prefer them? Because for Calvin identifies as male, and Calvin Wong Saloon comes up with he/they on my show. And Calvin said that someone mentioned that someone might think that Calvin is non-binary, and that's not what I want to say. And I don't having she/they on my show doesn't mean that you're non-binary. It means that you are comfortable enough being called they that it doesn't upset you, like you don't find it upsetting. So for me, I do find it marginally upsetting to be called he. Like it's something that I struggle with quite a lot, and I would really prefer people not to do. But if people want to call me they, especially if, and I almost advocate for using they as a gender neutral pronoun, which I think is a strong reason for it to be almost like a default for if you don't know what someone's pronoun is, then please use they. But that was a little bit of a no, it's not just about it's not that. If you're uncomfortable with they, you can be just she. That is totally fine. And if you're uncomfortable with it, I am, working to not refer to you as they. And yeah, it's not directed at you. It's I guess just to it was something in my mind before, I even met you, so. But Hwa Young, I understand your pronoun is she. How do you feel about being called they?
I don't mind, actually. And the funny thing is, well, my name, like for non-Korean speakers, I'm usually assumed to be male because that's the default. So I used to get lots of bills addressed to Mr. Hwa Young. And if I send an email, like default, they answer that they assume I'm male. Like a lot of people would just assume if I submit something to like commissions or whatever, like there's points where I have to say, actually, I'm female.
So Hwa Young is a feminine name in Korean.
No, it can be both. It's a unisex name, but
so how do you feel being called he?
Well, it doesn't bother me because it's not that people are assigning the wrong gender. It's just they don't know what to make of my name. That's so I'm not even that offended. It's amusing sometimes, except when like I had to do legal stuff, and then I had to show a utility bill that said Mr. that was addressed to Mr. To the bank. That was it was funny until it wasn't. And in Korea, like you don't really have gendered pronouns when you're talking about somebody, so you can talk about that person does blah 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 blah, and there's like you don't really know if you're talking about a male or a female. It's just the person. So I'm pretty comfortable with.
It's interesting because in Farsi, the language used in Iran, the same is true, and we would say Hwa Young un shakhs khobiye akwasulus un pesar khobiye. I mean, Dutch Yoda un shakhs khobiye, and you have no idea what I just said, but the pronoun in these sentences un, and un you just use un for everyone. So you might. The weird thing is that I'm trying to think how you'd. I can't remember the word for pair. Un mos. Like the word for a person is also the word for that. So it's also like it's like it, he, she, and day are all one word. Literally.
Yeah, it's the same in well, it's similar. So it's like when you're referring to someone else, you say 그 사람, like 사람 is person, so that person, then you don't know. There's no way you would know. And that the same applies for groups. So like, because Korean isn't gendered. It's not like a Romance language like Spanish or French or German that has gendered nouns.
Alex says that some women prefer not to correct people who assumed are male via email as they get treated better, which
that does
is...
happen sometimes. Sadly, that has happened.
Alan in chat does like the idea of they becoming a more common singular pronoun, but of course, like, I think we should also respect, and for people who do feel strongly enough, I guess for me, it depends from person to person what makes them comfortable, and whatever the language is, if it's making someone uncomfortable, I think the key thing is to check in with them. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just going to turn off my phone. Right. So yeah, back to the main topic, which is, of course, playing for change with Hwa Young, just in case anyone needed a reminder. I mean, let's talk more about pronouns, but I hate stopping a conversation, so did we have anything more to say about this before we move on? Okay. So so the thing is, how do you make a game that's actually going to influence some change? I mean, I guess one way to do it is to present a viewpoint. Like with Spoon Run, you've done this where it is a very basic roll and move game, based on the old Goose Game from the late 1800s, I want to say.
It is old. Yeah, it is based on the Goose Game. I tried to do 63 squares because that's how many you usually have in a Goose Game, but I couldn't think of enough stuff in the deadline I had, so I think I only have 59 squares. But yes, basically it's the Goose Game.
And so this game that you've got here is kind of, for me, it was interesting because it says it's for solo or group play. And if you play it solo, then there's not much of a game to it, in that you are, well, the notion of what is a game or what's not a game, again, it's question. This is playing on the margins. Like, do you need to be able to make decisions for something to be a game? Or is it a game by abnegation, a game where you're giving up control and you're succumbing to the things? I mean, for example, it harkens back to, the last millennia, where Snakes and Ladders was originally pondering and meditating on the nature of life. And so you cast the dice, and then you ponder these things, and then you go through, and then you think about, okay, what are these things which are giving us energy? What are these things that are detracting from the energy that we have? And I love this bit of text that you've got in the middle that I'm going to read out. Things that are finite, hours in the day, days in the year, your energy, this planet. If you can't rethink work-life balance during a pandemic, then when can you? How will you use your spoons? Doing what, with whom, where, how, and why? At the end of the day, if you have more spoons than you need, you can give them to players who have less. Now, within the game of Spoon Run itself, there's the option to miss a turn if you run out of spoons to replenish your energy. And so this suggests that all we need to do is miss a turn and magically we get all our spoons back, and then...
No, you get 1 spoon every time you miss a turn. You don't get 5 again.
Okay, that was unclear. But I guess the lesson, if I'm going to take that literally, is okay, as long as you take a bit more time to get through the day, then hey, it's just going to take you a bit more time because there's no mechanism. It's not really a race game, certainly if you're playing it solitaire, as is suggested by the game. But it's something to ponder on and to think, maybe not directly with the mechanisms, but with what is written on the board of what will cause us to detract energy. And it's kind of putting a statement out there for people to ponder. And Sate says they'd rather play for bulls, but they will also play for change. I am down with that. And let's... so, do you want to talk a wee bit about Spoon Run and how it is essentially a day in the life of Hwa Young, but it's also a lot of things that we might be able to relate to, especially if you're a freelancer?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the thing is, I use games the way I wouldn't say I'm a traditional gamer in any sense. And although I love playing full stop, and I like playing games, the objective for me when I make games isn't to make like the best mechanically robust game. It's more to use that form of a particular game to explore a subject matter. And I'm trying to get the idea that I'm trying to explore in this game, for Spoon Run, work-life balance, to a wider audience who are not necessarily gamers, but are familiar enough with the visual language of board games, any game in particular, any game, to as an easier way of entry to think about harder issues like probation or work-life balance, which is really, really tough for the arts and culture sector. I mean, for everyone really, but like for a lot of people, they're just addicted to working, especially if you're a freelancer. And that was sort of the things I wanted to look at, especially during COVID, when questions of what are key workers, what is key work, really was to the forefront of everybody. And like, what's the point? Why are we doing all of this?
Yeah, so for Spoon Run, that's the key thing that everyone needs to ask themselves, and it puts into stark relief the fact that everyone needs to prioritize what they do in life and thinking, okay, what is actually good, what is important, what is meaningful. And yeah, with Probationary, you were trying to again show this other viewpoint of people where you'd interviewed people who are going through the probation system and showing off their lived experience. Do you want to talk about
that? They're not interviewed. I
thought you interviewed them. I got that wrong.
No, I worked with them. They're my collaborators.
Okay, I see the difference. I apologize.
Yes. So it's if you look at the credits for the work, it's Hwa Young with Dave, Mike, the names of the 6 men that we made the project with. Now I don't remember all the names of the men because this was 4 years ago. But we went through an intense 10 workshops together me, the men on probation, the criminologists, their probation officers. So over, oh my God, 50 hours. I don't know, however many hours, 10 workshops, 3 hours each. We worked together to collaboratively build this board game that shows what it's like, what life on license is like. So the important thing is that you get an overview of the criminal justice system from different players within it. So it's not just, oh, there it is. Oh, wait a minute. If you go up a little bit, sorry, where the credits are, then you'll see the names of the men on. Oh, yes.
Here.
Yeah. So those are the men that I made it with. And it's through really so many conversations with these guys and the criminologists, and I that the viewpoint or the perspective of being on license was created, and the journey and the kind of emotional journey that you would get from it. And it was really important for the process that the criminologists were also on a level with the men on probation, and that they were not sitting in the back with a clipboard observing it, because I didn't want that aspect to influence what the men would say. I wanted a really open space to be to discuss like how they actually feel about this whole process of being monitored, and what that says about England's policies towards reform.
And in the game, basically, it's a game for a group wherein one person is playing the person who's monitoring everyone, and everyone else needs to check in every so often, but you don't get to take notes. And as a player, you need to remember to check in, and it becomes all-consuming. And then it almost, while you're playing this game, if you ever fail to do a check-in, then it's such a devastating part of the game. I can't remember what the punishments was for not.
Oh, you go back to prison. You have to start all over again.
It's completely starting over again.
Yes.
So if you check in too often, then every time you check in, you're basically skipping a turn. But if you check in too late, then the officer can just send you back to prison. But
yes,
then
that's true.
Yes. Check in too early, then you're skipping the turn, so you're just not getting as much done. And so to be able to win this game, if you're playing it as a game to try and win, then your entire mind is, okay, how many turns before I need to go? And then you develop the system of, okay, counting it on my fingers and making sure that I don't move my fingers, so I can not have to keep repeating this number. And it does definitely, I don't know, that part of it definitely came across.
But there's no rule that says you can't make notes about when your turn is. So you can check in. So for most players, you have to check in every third turn. So that means first turn you roll the dice and go. Second turn you roll the dice and go. The third turn you don't roll the dice and you check in to the I, who usually I play. I never said, when I'm explaining the rules, I've never said you're not allowed to take notes.
Oh.
I've only seen one person take notes. So I don't know why they feel like, they have to be harder on themselves than they can. I've seen people like do this with their fingers as they're playing, or sometimes I've seen people use the counters to mark how they do it, or things in their pockets, so they can't. I have never said you're not allowed to do that.
This is an interesting thing about assumptions, and yeah, that's definitely says something about us.
I mean, I have a thick notepad where I keep track, and I know people can see that I'm keeping score, because I need to remember as well. You
I
know.
think maybe what happened is you might have said, "Oh, I'm allowed to keep notes, and I'll be keeping notes." And maybe the way you frame it, it's like, "Oh, okay, Hwa Young's keeping notes. I guess I'm not." And yeah, I guess I could have asked for a thing. To be fair, the finger method worked kind of okay, and it possibly even added to the experience, I might say, because it's. I mean, it's the same with benefits. Is the issue like with benefits when you have to check in every month and you only get this like 3 day window to report. Okay, this is what my earnings were the last month. Otherwise, you get warnings and stuff. Um, Alan in chat says that so in Rory's episode on Monday, I want to say, and we were also chatting about changing perspectives via games. And Alan mentioned that roll and move is possibly the best, is likely the best mechanism for narratives. I am personally not going to say that I agree with this, but do you agree with this, Hwa Young, that roll and move is likely the best mechanic for telling the story if you want to?
What's roll and move?
When you roll the dice and then you move your piece.
Right. No, it's not. I mean, like, there's not, like, Gloom is a card game. There's no dice in that one. That's like a very narrative focused game. No, like, the reason I chose to make this game look like the way it is because I knew I was making this with people who are not gamers. And so I couldn't get too like high level or in depth or really like niche with what I was doing. And actually I wasn't even sure if they wanted to make a game when like I was originally commissioned to do this project. The Fact in Liverpool, which is the like arts organization that commissioned me, asked, "Do you want to can you make a piece of artwork that about the lived experience of being on probation? And here are some criminologists that you have to work with." So it's not like they said, "Can you make a game about probation?" They said, "Can you make an art about probation?" And I said, "Yes. Can I make a board game?" So that's how the game aspect came about. And I planned it as much as I could. I had no idea if the men that I was going to work with would be into this, and what I had to do if they weren't into it. And the reason I wanted to do board games was twofold. One, I knew I couldn't take any technology into the hostel, so it had to be analog. So
Mm.
it's like as an artwork. I mean, I do some digital stuff, but like I knew in this case I couldn't do it at all. So it had to be like a pure paper-based art experience. And I really loved like the snapshot of a world perspective that you can see on of board games. So like if you look at like the one of the earliest board games, The Mansion of Happiness. I don't know if you know that one. It has like 100 steps into it, and it's like a Christian morality tale. It's just like it tells you how you have to how you should live life from birth to death. This is the right way to live, is what The Mansion of Happiness shows you. So with this men, I wanted to explore that. If I was asking them what is their collective life philosophy and how would you show that in one image, like a single page image, what would that be? And what is the goal? What does winning mean to them? Like, where's the start point? Where's the end point? That's what I wanted a collective description about. So yeah. So that's the And like if you read the subtitle for the Mansion of Happiness, it's like it says something like a moral and instructive entertainment for children or something like this. And this was like a gender neutral game. It was for boys and girls. But later board games started becoming gendered in terms of like who it was appropriate for or what sort of values they were trying to imbue to children. So there's one called The Path to Matrimony, which is also like a like a snake run type game, which was for young girls, and obviously your goal in life is to get married. That's the end game for you. Or like there's one for boys that's called uh The Office Boy or Messenger, and like you start off as like the stock boy, and you try to work your way up to CEO of that company. So you can see that's a very capitalistic idea of winning. So that was what I was interested in exploring with the men. And
I mean, it's interesting because typically, um, roll and move games, you roll the dice. It's almost like the first thing that people start making again because of the familiarity, because it's something that we all understand, and there's definitely a mixture of, okay, you can see all the things on the board, but you experience the subsets of them, and in a way, it is actually a nice analog for life. I would argue that maybe a deck of cards is a slightly better analog, but when you are presenting games as art to people who maybe don't know games that well, it feels like for sure coming up with something that's super familiar to these people is going to help in, yeah, getting a message across.
yeah, it had to be a familiar thing. And I also like my first workshop I spent just seeing if they were if they wanted to make the games or not. And I brought lots of board games, other games, just to like have a fun atmosphere. I brought like Candyland, Game of Life, uh, dominoes, pack of cards, and I thought they might play cards or dominoes, and like that. Those are the two ones that they didn't want to touch at all because it reminded them too much of their time in prison. So like that was an assumption on my part.
Mm.
But the Candyland game, that actually drew. They were more drawn to that because that's something they played in their childhood, and they had like fonder memories of that, of playing that board game than dominoes. So once I knew like they were into the idea, then I knew I could go forward and actually turn our like the workshop into making a board game.
Did
So the
you,
narrative, the roll and move narrative was just part and parcel of that format of the game, of like the Candyland or the Game of Life.
of what you
So
actually enjoyed?
yeah.
I mean, did you ever consider showing them something a bit more modern and complicated?
No, because I like my like the time just spent holding that room I was enough to uh without bringing in any more complications, like because I was asking really really tough questions with the group, like how do you win, what's the meaning of life, um does
Hmm.
prison work, this these kind of questions that are really like tough to discuss even without the objective of making a board game together, so I didn't want to add complications, but like we did bring in some of rule making, gameplay. You know, like we could discuss more aspects of their life with game mechanics, like what percentage should we have of luck and skill? Like in their life, what do they feel? How much agency do you feel you have? How much agency do you want the player to have if you want them to experience what you're going through? You know,
Mm.
these kind of discussions we were able to have with the framework of game mechanics.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's not necessarily about the studied objective reality, but the subjective reality. And the point isn't that this is necessarily the systems in place. That's not what's under the spotlight. It's under the lived experiences of all these people. Nicholas, regarding people not taking notes, maybe it's the medium of board games has the implicit rule of this is what you need to play the game all in one box. So people weren't thinking outside of the box, literally, because of this implicit thing about games that through inertia, most people won't question. Unless there are scores to tally, most people won't add pen and paper to their ready to play experiences, says Nicholas.
Yeah, maybe. I think you do go into like muscle memory when you're presented with something you're familiar with. So that could be very true. Although I always find people also like cheating at games. So oh, do you
What?
know what? Actually, I did find people who kept score on their phone.
Hmm.
I did see that. Yeah.
Maybe it's the reluctance to ask for pen and paper because we don't happen to have pen and paper with us. Maybe
Yes,
that's
and you
what.
have your phone, and everyone has a phone. So
And if I ask you for a pen and paper, it's like, oh, is this okay? Because you're already in that kind of subservient role almost. Because you're explaining the game, you're teaching the game, and also you're the probation officer.
maybe I don't know. I've played this game so many times. It's different every time. You know, it depends who I'm playing it with, where I'm playing at, and who the other people are, if they know each other or if they don't know each other. So a lot of those different factors.
Alex in chats was talking about narrative events and an inspiration from a semi-structured narrative system, which sounds very much like Matthew Dunstan's adventure series. I don't know if you've played those, but it and Alex in chats, this is an interesting idea, but maybe check out Matthew Dunstan's thing.
Yep.
And
Okay, that sounds good.
Nicholas says yes, trying not to cheat might be part of the not wanting to bring other things into the.
Yeah,
Um,
it could be. Yeah.
so
But you know the thing is, like, what I really wanted the men to feel, um or like take away from doing this is that um the rules that they're living under, because like being in prison, like surviving that, and then like being on probation and surviving that, they're in a way they are playing a game, because there's rules, there's definite rules of what you should do or you shouldn't do, which are really more explicit in prison. Because that, like one of the men said, like prison was easy. Prison was easier than probation because you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But probation, it's confusing because you're out in the world, but you're not in the world. And it was really complicated to know what you can do and you can't do.
mm,
So they do see it as a game they have to do, or a test. Maybe it's more like a test, you know? And like in the process of making the game and like having the rules explained of what like things to give you points, things that take away points, and going through that process, I wanted the men, but also the criminologists and the probation officers, to see that we as a group are making the rules for this game, and to take that forward. That means people make the rules for the games that we play or the society that we live in. What's right, what's wrong. It's a consensual exercise in deciding what's accepted and not. And because people made them, as we just experienced, like over the past 10 workshops, we just made rules for how to like exist and survive in this board game.
So
That
the
means
creation
people can
itself
change.
became
Yes.
almost a method of healing.
Healing, but more like agency or actualization, that because humans, made the rules. They were not God-given. It wasn't always there. That means we can change them. People can change the rules as well. And that's the thing that I wanted to get across with the men, so they have more agency about how they might progress or what they might think winning means. But more importantly, when I play with people in the criminal justice system, like probation officers or policymakers, they will also have this understanding that we can change the rules. We don't have to live with the system that we have now. Yes, but people make the institutions. So we can change the rules of the institutions.
And then you were trying to play this with people who can then change the policies. Did you ever have that opportunity?
Yeah. So I played it with the prison and probation ombudsman. Went to their office to play this. I played it with some policymakers at the Ministry of Justice and a lot of stakeholders within the criminal justice system, like the probation inspectorate, a lot of third-party volunteer sectors that do stuff around this, like St. Mungo's, who do stuff around homelessness, charities around prison reform, and education sectors that are, because it's all interlinked, like everything's connected, and I think the general public has a misconception of what prisons are for. Like it's not, well, this government is certainly very punitive in their dealings with prisoners. It could be more geared toward rehabilitation. So you could think of prisons as a space to just step aside for a bit because you're not ready, or you need to have some time like healing yourself before rejoining society, rather than like a place to isolate and separate people, who are going to have to rejoin society at some point. So it's all connected in terms of why,
And Nicholas agrees that people participating in the institutions change the institutions themselves. When we say on another level, the gaming community, I think Nicholas is asking, is the gaming community all of us, or is it a few people making a bunch of rules? Is that what you're asking, Nicholas? Are you suggesting that there's a few people who are kind of setting the tastes, like maybe those people who have a lot more people watching videos or whatever, or reading their blog, who say, hey, this is a good thing, or who bring up a topic? I mean, the fact that Tom Vassell had about 1 hour interview with Eric Lang where Tom Vassell kept quiet for most of the stream, And Eric Lang, for the record, it's important to know that Eric Lang is a black board game designer, and this was after Black Lives Matter, when after the death of George something, and but yeah, this kind of thing where kind of giving a platform to someone else, I think that this kind of thing matters, and having someone who is really high profile like that, saying, "Hey, these are the things that matter," and so I I don't know if this is the question that Nicholas was trying to ask, whether it's a few individuals who are changing everything, or whether it's a little bit from everyone. But if we do ask that question, it seems to me that ultimately change is going to come from a few key individuals. And certainly there's a few individuals in any community that have more power. But at the same time, that power can be you can use that power to bring other people up, to give other people a voice, and that's what I should is a strong word, but I think it's something that would be really good to be done. And um, yeah, we can all make a change, but it only takes a few of us to start making something a wee bit different for it to be a change that will eventually other people start taking notice. Oh, yeah, that's a really nice thing. Because frankly, the fact that I saw an achievement sheet in my little scythe, that is the thing that is going to mean that there's an achievement sheet in all my future games, unless like there's a budget game in a wee tuck box. But like in my future games that I'm selling for 15 quid, or and then if we look at kawaii, the way that the box is, like I gain it, and so it's like, okay, one person does something, and then it's, there's a ripple effect for sure, and the fact that holding on, it comes out, or probationary comes out, and it takes like one small group of people to do that, but anyone can do that. I don't know, how do you think about this thing?
I think all options. It's not a binary thing. You need people on the inside and on the outside and on the fence. So, like, why not all of them? I don't know why we have to
Hmm.
choose, like, what's the best. Just do everything.
Yes. And Nicholas says that when we see things in the gaming community, we can decide whether that represents us or not. And we can feel empowered to express what we want to see in the gaming community. And of course, games are a small part of life, and games can express life, and life can benefit from games. But of course, yes, we are all part of the gaming community. We're also all part of, I mean, does it then mean that we are all equally empowered within our general lives as citizens of whatever country we happen to reside in? Um, Nicholas says there are key individuals, but mostly because of their influence. But given how that power is mostly the power to communicate, if they pick up on change coming from those without the singular reach they have, change still comes from other people, us all, without the singular reach, even if there are key individuals that are communicating. So it's like kind of, yeah, using, but that's kind of suggesting that ultimately it all comes down to a degree of marketing, of getting, hey, this needs to change. If you really feel strongly about boxes are too big, for example, if that's a thing that you think is bad for the environment or disingenuous, and then this is something that maybe you might ask Oliver on Tabletop Games blog, who asks for topics, to say, hey, would you do a topic about this? I hope I say this enough, that if you want me to do, like, I'm not Tom Vassell or Shut Up and Sit Down, but if you want me to do a show about something in particular, then let me know. And for me, I mean, yeah, and for sure, if you feel like something matters, then reach out to Shut Up and Sit Down. Yeah. So you're looking like you're not sure how to respond to this tangent.
No, I agree. I mean, the thing is, it's not like you have a quota on how to be a better person or how to make change, like it's sort of like um like if you have another family member who comes into your life, it's not like you only have this amount of love you can give. So like if
Mm.
a new baby comes, they're going to take up this much. So that means like the other sibling is going to get less love, like that's not how caring works. It's expensive. So um
Uh, I agree with you in that love isn't finite, but our time and energy is finite. So
sure,
even if
sure.
we care about something, we will not have the energy to help effect change.
Yes,
And
yes, yes, exactly. But like the thing with like all the different methods is you don't have to do all of them, but it's not one person doing all of them. It's a coalition of people doing it from multiple angles, and there's strength in that, knowing that you're part of a collective working towards a common goal. So it lessens the burden, but also you're more effective. And that's how you can so my role in the Games for Change isn't trying to do mass appeal. It's a very targeted approach to politicians or people I think have power to see this game and open up. And then they're ready when you see like larger mass protests around like defund the police or like other things that like I can be there to prime them a little bit of what it's like for people on the bottom. So like when there's other approaches that are sideways or like outright
mm,
confrontational, they'll have a better understanding. And I'm playing a small part in the move for change. Like there's no, I am not narcissistic enough to think that this one board game, playing it with, I don't know, the Secretary of Justice, is gonna like change everything, because I know it's not.
mm.
I'm building on the work of all the people before me, all the people alongside me. Yeah, and all for all the people who are gonna come ahead, after me.
Uh, Nicholas, I didn't read anything about quotas from your comments. Hwa Young, I think what you were saying was basically a tangent from what had been written, correct? Like you were
Yes,
building
yeah,
on. You weren't. Yeah,
yeah.
so it wasn't a direct response, but like that's what we're all here. That's we are blethering. There is no, but the time has come. The time has come, and I'm kind of sad to say this, that we have to start winding down because
Woo!
oh, I'm glad to hear you say that. Well, maybe we can have you on another day and chat more about this but I would like to quickly over the next 7 or 8 minutes ask you some go over some really quick questions. So
Okay.
firstly, yeah, what do you think there's a particular type of game that is better at effecting change?
No. Depends on the context, who you're trying to reach.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna change someone who thinks uh uh no. If they don't like card games, I'm not gonna win them over by playing a card game.
And same with any genre of game. If they don't like strategic games, then they're not going to even play the strategic
No,
game.
no.
Um, no, I like that. It's all contextual. So, do you think that games or play are, you know, uniquely placed to effect change, or do you think it's just part of a greater tapestry of tools that we need to use?
It's just a part of. It's a small part
Hmm.
of the human tide for why we do anything.
Do you think that what would you cite as some key things that we can do to effect change outside of games, whether that's protesting or whatever? If you had to give top three things, okay, what's your top three methods?
Well, I don't think the thing I want most people to do. The most important thing I want people to do is to stop and just be nice to yourself and others.
Be kind, be mindful.
Yeah, and then things will come from that. I don't want to say you should do this. This is the best tactic to do because it's gonna work. Whatever's gonna work for you, I don't know what it is. Only you know. I can't tell you how to live your life, but I can say do it with love.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. So do you think if we are going to create a game to try and effect change, and let's say firstly in the design of the game, do you have any tips for once we've decided, okay, a game is the correct way to do this, given my skill sets or given the context or given the people I'm trying to reach? Do you have any tips for the design of the game? I'll let you answer that question first.
I would say test it a lot. So, and be open to change.
Oh, yeah. Be open to change within your game if you want to facilitate change out with your game. I like that.
Exactly, yes.
And in the chat, there's some love for love, and there's a mention of a walk-off in the Champions League football match yesterday. I was not aware of this. Apparently, some racist comments were made, and the teams were then not playing for change, which is quite cool. Had you heard about this?
You know what game I absolutely hate? Organized sporting events of any kind.
Okay.
So I was not aware. I don't.
That's fair. So, I mean, I guess that's something that we could discuss on another day. But yeah, the final question that I wanted to ask is, when you are trying to get your game seen by particular individuals, do you have any tips for that?
No, I'm looking for tips for that.
Because, I mean, you managed to get it played by a bunch of people who are positioned, able to actually change those rules, correct?
Well, I mean, I think, but I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to see impact, and how do you know it's because they played this game? This game is just a part of the process of someone changing their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for disorganized sporting events.
All for it.
Yeah. Like Calvin Ball. I would play that forever.
Okay, well, this has been a lovely chat. And so as we finish up, I want to try and do a quick recap and wrap up. We talked about so much. We talked about bicycles and spoons and bad Christmas joke, about roast potatoes in tins and kimchi. We talked about exercise and hiking and cycling a bit more. We talked about art being creating a space for dialogue, about communicating. we talked a little bit about pronouns, and then we changed the little banners that we have live on camera. We had a wee bit of a discussion about that. We talk about the nature of a capitalistic society, that we can change rules, that institutions make rules, but humans make institutions. And I guess also we can change rules of a board game, like if you're not enjoying. But that's a totally separate matter. But yeah, we can house rule a board game, and we can change anything that's not working for us just because. And I guess an analog to house rules, I mean, house rules are kind of like Scotland having different rules to England. Do you get what I mean? It's like Scotland saying, okay, these are the rules that you've, but, or it's like different territories or different states in the USA if you're American. We talked about the fact that we can all do stuff to effect change, but of course it comes down to what you're able to do, how much energy you have. We talked about kindness to yourself, to others, being mindful, and yeah, how it's all about love at the end of the day. And we talked briefly about disorganized football events or not playing Champions League, and Alan in chat suggesting that disorganized sporting events is trying to get 14-year-old, 14 old men, not 14-year-olds. I was confusing myself there for a moment. That's us trying to get 14 old men to play football without someone being injured. That's a disorganized sporting event, apparently. But maybe it's not disorganized enough for your tastes. Hwa Young.
I don't get football, and there was something about how do I manage and live in Liverpool. I lived in Manchester for 8 years, and I managed to like avoid football as well.
Okay, so yes, if you want to check me out, then you can check out all the links at the bottom of the screen, stuffforbeds.com, stuffforbeds.bigcartel.com to buy my stuff, twitter.com/stuffforbeds for my tweets. My phone isn't working, so there's no pictures on instagram.com/stuffforbeds, twitch.tv/stuffforbeds. I stream every day at 10 a.m. UK time and 8 p.m. on Tuesdays, youtube.com/c/stuffforbeds for the old episodes, stuffforbeds.com/discord. Go there for the cat chat and for the Bez and Friends game day, which will be on January the 9th. And if you want to follow Hwa Young, where would you like to be found?
Well, that's my website. On Twitter, I'm at Hwa Young, but I have to warn you, I am social media distancing. I'm not very active. But if you really want to get in touch with me, just drop me an email. And I prefer communicating via post. So if you want to be a pen pal.
Yeah, I was a very bad pen pal.
Did I write you a letter? I'm sure. I think I wrote you a letter.
You wrote me a letter and I never wrote back. That's like the
worst. No one
kind.
writes back.
Yeah, I wanted to write back.
No, that's not true. People do write back. I got a letter today.
Oh. Oh, and there is also another thing that we were going to briefly give a shout out to, which is this thing. So, oh, wait a minute. That's the next section. I'm getting ahead of myself. Firstly, I should say thank you, everyone. And you've been amazing. Thank you, Hwa Young, who's above me now. And thank you, everyone in chat.
Thank
you.
And
now we've got the whole 5 minutes. This is amazing. I've been so organized today. We've got like 5 minutes left. And I can ask over to you, what are you up to? You can share anything you want to. So please share in chat something that you're excited to be doing soon, or something that you want to achieve, or something that anything that you want to share about yourself in the future. And so, Hwa Young, what's this all about?
I'm giving a talk, but for 5 minutes amongst a lot of really amazing other people giving 5-minute presentations. And it's a night that would have originally happened in Dundee, but we're in a pandemic, so it's happening online now.
7 to 9 p.m. GMT. And so you will have to work that out for your own time zone. So that's something that, if you're in Germany, I guess that's 8 to 10. If you're in Korea, then you can. Sorry,
It's 4 a.m. for me. I'm doing it live as well, so I'm.
Wow,
I'm
wait. So is it 4 until 7?
No, it's just 4 to 5.
Okay.
In the morning for me.
Wait a minute. 7 to 9.
Yes. Sorry, 7. Is it 2 hours? 7.
2 hours.
Yes, 2
So
hours.
4 to 6.
Yeah.
Okay. But
also,
yes.
can I sneak one last thing in?
I don't know. But no, of course you can.
I made a calendar for next year.
Oh.
It's a collaborative work with microbiologists and performance artists. And they work together to drag as a microbe for every month of 2021.
And
it's on my. If you go to my website, sorry, I should have told you about this, but it's yes, that's if you go up, you can see yes. So endosymbiotic love calendar. That's a link. The pink thing. Yes. If you can go there. That's I made a calendar.
Yes, and it's a bunch of people cosplaying as the different viruses
and bacteria.
Yes.
And fungi. They're looking for love. This is like a dating site for microbes. My favorite microbe is probably Leishmania mexicana, the one that you see right there, the protist.
So other people have said, thank you back at you. Thank you for being here, everyone. Alex is going to build an interactive fiction space station. You can get drunk and buy space cabbages, says Alex, possibly via Twine. And yep. So if anyone else has anything else to share, you've got about 30 seconds, after which I am going to, if you're watching live on Twitch, then we will raid someone. If you're not, then thank you very much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously subscribe, do all those things. I should do my own. For my next streams, please do look at stuffbybez.com/streams. And tomorrow I am chatting to Dina all about timing. And we're going to chat about timing in marketing, like when should you start a thing, like how we've already talked about how often and regularity, but when should you advertise something based on the life cycle of your projects, if you know what I mean. And I think this is going to be an interesting discussion. And Friday is always the Friendly Friday Forum. And there is going to be some more chaotic stuff around in the year because I decided I don't want to really plan anything. So that's going to be the equivalent of me having a fortnight off. So I will be still streaming, but it might literally just be me streaming from public transport or from 10 minutes if I have to go to a medical appointment one day. It might just be a stream of, hey, this is Bez, it's 10 a.m. and I'm going to sing while I'm waiting outside the doctor's office. But that's the end of the stream, and I hope you all have a good day. And sorry it can't be longer, but at least thanks to StreamYard, I can stream on my phone. And one of them might be a show about UK Games Expo is going. let me actually check Twitch to see what is going on. Because we do raid Michael a lot. But for now, there is basically just UK Games Expo isn't going. Why did you mention Alan? Um, so yeah, I was slightly confused there, but yeah, UK Games Expo. I guess they've just not quite started yet, but because I want to do the raid thing right now, and we are going to finish up right now, I will have to say goodbye.
Thank you. Thanks. This was fun.
It was lovely. And so the only thing left to say is, of course, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. And bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone. You're allowed to say bye.
Bye.